Argentina finds itself in deep trouble in early World Cup action.
Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
Hi, everyone. This is Jeff, and welcome to Plain English for Monday, June 25th, 2018. On today's episode, you'll hear all the latest from the World Cup in Russia. Because this is a bonus episode, we did not have enough time to do the typical translations, but you can still find a full word-for-word English transcript of the program on the website. I goofed up a little bit, so the numbers are out of order. The last episode was 57, but I recorded this coming Wednesday's episode last week and called it 58, forgetting that I'd published this special one today. So today's episode is number 59, and you can find the transcript at plainenglish.com/59, plainenglish.com/59. Wednesdays will be number 58. It'll be a little bit like traveling back in time. This is the kind of mistake I should have been making back around episode 7 or 8, not approaching the 60th episode. Regardless, once again, you can find today's transcript at plainenglish.com/59. We don't know who's going to win, but we do know a few countries that will not win. The early action in the group phase has eliminated Egypt, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Peru, Costa Rica, Tunisia, and Panama. 6 teams have already qualified to move on to the knockout stage. Those teams are Russia, Uruguay, France, Croatia, Belgium, and England. A couple of teams are on the verge of getting into the next round. Brazil, Denmark, and Spain just need 1 point, either a win or a draw, to advance. Mexico, despite having some off-the-field distractions, is in the same situation. They need just to draw against Sweden to be guaranteed a spot in the next round. They can also advance if Germany loses. By the way, Mexico stunned defending champions Germany in the opening game 1-0, and then beat South Korea on Saturday morning. I watched that one on Televisa with my morning coffee yesterday. If the Mexican team has made a splash so far in the World Cup, the Mexican fans have also made quite an impression on the atmosphere, not only in the stadiums, but outside as well. I watched both of Mexico's first 2 games, and the crowd was clearly in favor of el Tri, as they say. There is also this group of 4 guys who bought a bus, named it La Bendición, or The Blessing, painted it with Mexican imagery, shipped the bus to Germany, and then toured Europe promoting Mexico before arriving in Russia. They were no doubt happy to see the first 2 wins for their home team. What is going on with Argentina? They are in big trouble, having drawn with tiny Iceland in their first game, and then having lost to Croatia by 3-0 in their second game. Argentina now finds itself in a hole, not having won either of their first 2 games. Without a swift turnaround, it will be an embarrassing early exit for the soccer powerhouse and home to one of the sport's icons, Lionel Messi. Messi, by the way, did not have much of an impact in Argentina's first 2 games. He missed a penalty in the first game against Iceland. I'm no soccer critic, so I'll put this in the words of the New York Times, which had this to say about Messi's performance in his second game. Quote, "He looked like a man strolling in a park while a soccer match took place around him. He dropped deeper and deeper in search of a possession until he appeared to give up all hope of influencing the game." Ouch. Argentina, which reached the finals in the last World Cup, will not only have to beat Nigeria, but will also have to get lucky with the results of other games if they are to advance out of the group stage. Iceland deserves a mention. The tiny island of just 330,000 people is the smallest nation ever to qualify for the World Cup. After their defeat of Argentina in their opener, they fell to Nigeria in their second game, but their hopes are still alive. This World Cup is the first to feature video review. The system is called the Virtual Assistant Referee and overturned its first call in the Brazil-Costa Rica match on Friday. The Brazilian forward Neymar engaged in a World Cup tradition, which is theatrically overreacting to the most innocent of contact, in the hopes of tricking the referee into calling a penalty. In this case, with just 12 minutes to play in the game, he did indeed draw a penalty call from the referee. But for the first time in World Cup history, a call was overturned after assistance, and the penalty against Costa Rica was not awarded after all. Brazil went on to win anyway by a score of 2-0. Neymar himself had one of the 2 late goals that put Brazil over the top. I think by now we all know the pros and cons of video review in sports. It can protect the game from being influenced by an obvious referee error, but it can also interrupt the pace of play and can sometimes be used inconsistently. Then there are inevitably questions of judgment that cannot be resolved even with the best replays. But listen, I'm not the expert in soccer, so let me hear your opinions on whether you think the virtual assistant referees are making this World Cup better or not. You can send me your thoughts to Jeff, Jeff, at plainenglish.com, or find me on Facebook or Twitter with the username PlainEnglishPod. Today, the English expression I'd like to share with you is over the top. I'll give you 2 meanings of this phrase. First, here is how you heard it just a moment ago. Neymar had one of the 2 late goals to put Brazil over the top in its game against Costa Rica. In this sense, it means to reach an objective. In the case of the game, the objective is to win, to score more goals than your opponent. At the time, the game was tied 0-0. Then 2 Brazilian players scored to put their team over the top. In our last episode, we talked about the Mexican presidential election. The polls continue to look like AMLO will win enough votes to put himself over the top. He will get enough votes to win the election. At least it looks that way now, with just under a week before votes are cast. There is another more casual, informal way to use the English expression over the top. When you want to say that something is too exaggerated, too extreme, just too much, you say that something is over the top. Personally, I think some of the reactions of the players in the World Cup to minor contact are over the top. They're reacting as if they're gravely injured, rolling around on the turf. Some of those reactions are over the top. They're too much for my taste. I shouldn't pick on just soccer. They do the same thing in basketball too. Some people might think that buying a bus, decorating it, shipping it to Europe, and then driving it to Moscow just to see your country play in a game is over the top, too much, too exaggerated. But other people might think that's perfectly normal. I hope you're enjoying the World Cup games so far. I've watched a couple of them. It's hard for me because I work during the day, so I can't see anything unless it's on a weekend. But maybe as the tournament progresses, I'll be able to work from home or take some time off to watch the important matches. Don't forget to tell me what you think about the virtual assistant referee. Send me your thoughts to jeff@plainenglish.com or find me on Facebook or Twitter @plainenglishpod. The next 2 non-sports episodes will be Wednesday and Friday. Next Monday, we'll have another special World Cup episode. Good luck to whomever you are rooting for in the tournament. JR says, Viva Mexico!